Okay. Okay, let's see. Getting. So I would like to do a bit of today Deep State Watch about different things. Spent the last night being tortured with microwave weapons all night, so it's not particularly nice because I can say I feel very well at the moment, and basically I also been targeted most of my life. So and it is happening in the to a different extent is happening every night now at the moment. So it was quite it's somewhat different in the past, but now at the moment is happening every night. So this is microwave torture, the same as we are the same as we have been told has been happening in to U.S. diplomats in Cuba and in China. And one important thing is obviously to develop all these kind of Frankenstein technologies. They they need to test them. So like if you say like no testing, no technologies. So they need to test it on people, guinea pigs, whatever. And so no testing, no technologies. So people have been hearing about this incident with U.S. diplomats in Cuba and China. But there is this kind of schizophrenic, cognitive schizophrenia going on, whereby people which most of the time they have the attention span of a goldfish, so they receive some information, but then 5 minutes later it's gone, so it's no longer there. So I mean, because most people have the attention span of a goldfish. So even though people, if people, probably most people heard something about this happening in Cuba and China. If you go to them to say, "Oh, look, I'm a guinea pig," and this technology has actually been tested in people like myself, and there's quite a big number of us online all saying the same identical thing. They probably dismiss you as crazy because of this kind of cognitive schizophrenia. It's also a question of suppressed science. I mean, is a fact that in the U.S. Patent Office there is a department run by the DoD and the CIA when they screen all patent applications. That's a fact. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. If they think there's any technology, any new patent can be weaponized or used for military or surveillance purposes. Basically, the patent go dark. So it's basically the DoD, the CIA are taking over the patent. You're never going to hear anything about it ever since. I mean, so it disappears, and we don't know what happened to actually the people. We don't know what fate is going to befall the people which are trying to patent some of these disappearing technologies. But it's probably not terribly safe situation for them. But then there was someone in the United States, an investigative journalist, who did some freedom of information request. He kept digging on this subject. Basically, he found out that basically up to 6,000 of these patents, which have been taken over by, say, the deep state, completely gone completely dark. So God knows what kind of science they are developing behind the scene. God knows what kind of technologies they are developing behind the scene. We target individual. We have some idea of some of the technology they are developing behind the scenes. And so going back to the case of these U.S. diplomats. It would appear, because the whole story is very strange enough, but then there was this article on CNN of all media. Basically, some of the people, particularly the diplomat in China, I would think, and not the diplomats in the US, in Cuba, a lot of times they have been complaining to strange cases of harassment, pets being tampered with, being followed, both in China and after they return to the US. So that's stranger. So that was reported by CNN. So that is some of these diplomats, the one stationed in China, they've been reporting some gaslighting, being followed, harassment, going home and find like their home has been broken in, things disappearing, pets being poisoned, and So, the stranger, you may say. I mean, this thing is seemed to have been, starting in China, and then when they returned to the US, it carried on in the US. So, stranger, you may say. And it would appear that you can think of two possibilities. One is US diplomats are being targeted for some reason by the US deep state, which is entirely possible, overseas, which is entirely possible technically and in any other way, and then also they're being gaslighted in China and then back into the United States also, for some reason, which these people, God knows what they're getting up to. I wonder if they know what they're getting up to, so. Basically, people have been targeted by, which possibly is the most likely scenario. They've been targeted by both the Cuban and the Chinese government, but there was the U.S. government, the U.S. deep state. They immediately start getting into overdrive to prevent this kind of a widespread dissemination of this kind of information. So it would appear that when these diplomats returned to the United States, after being treated somewhat sympathetically for a little while, then they start to experience all kind of obstruction in people say, oh yeah, it looks like you're being targeted with microwave weapon, and then after a while they start saying, oh, actually there is no conclusive evidence that we are being targeted with microwave weapon, and then they start experiencing all kind of gaslighting and obstruction, sabotaging, which you may say they've probably been. So I think the most likely scenario is that these diplomats have been targeted by the Cuban or Chinese government or deep states, and then immediately U.S. deep state is starting to go into overdrive to discredit them, to discredit the whole story, to backtrack on the whole story. Because they, in this kind of area, like we target individuals know very well in the Western deep state, they have a lot of hide, a lot of things they need to hide in this, not least the fact that they've been testing these technologies, microwave technologies, on people in the West, that include the United States, this country, the United Kingdom, include many European countries like France, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, Spain. So they have a lot to hide. So it is, after some initial recognition that these diplomats were targeted with microwave weapon, they immediately start to backtrack and possibly they engage also into some kind of gaslighting and obstruction, sabotaging, to kill off the story altogether. So that's so much for uh, microwave torture. Then I would like to talk about other things going on at the moment. We have all this Brexit furore in this country. I think the what's I don't think that Theresa May's position for a short while is going to be fairly safe. In that, I don't think the Tory rebel would want to make a move at the moment because. But I think what's going to happen now, there is going to be, in a few days' time, Theresa May is going to go to Brussels and to sign, presumably, unless there is some major problem with some of the other 27 countries, a draft agreement is going to be signed. Then Theresa May is going to come back, and then she has to get this agreement through Parliament. And there is no way, I think, that she is going to get the agreement through Parliament. So after it's going to become quite clear that we know already anyway, but there's not, the numbers are not there. There's not the numbers. But after it's going to become clear that this agreement is not going to go through, after the agreement fails to go through Parliament, then I expect all kind of things to happen. My God, it's going to be total political chaos. Maybe you live in interesting times, and so that's probably going to happen maybe in 2-3 weeks. 2-3 weeks, there's probably going to be a lot of debates in Parliament, and then there's going to be a vote. And then when is going to become apparent that the agreement, as most people already know anyway, is there is not the numbers, is not going to go through Parliament, then expect all kinds of things to happen. In terms of leadership challenges, early elections, new referendums. So God knows. That's with regard to Brexit. Then, with regard to the Khashoggi affair, now Trump is saying that he's acknowledging that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman probably knew about the murder. But I think the thing is, Western country, the Western deep state, they don't care how many people, how many journalists, how many peaceful protester campaigners, how many Yemeni the Saudi regime murdered. But what seems to be transpiring is that particularly this is mainly the case with Turkey, which now is has a very confrontational relation with the Saudi regime. So people are trying to extract concession from the Saudi regime, and so Turkey particularly is trying to make this thing for. They were obviously backing and maybe even able to film what was going on in the Saudi consulate. And I think I expect this kind of common practice. Common practice. So most countries, particularly if there is some kind of sensitive relationship with the other country, or they probably endeavor, if where at all possible, to bag and maybe even manage to do a bit of filming of anything going on in a number of different consulates and on the territory. I mean, I think it's a very common thing that everyone does it. But so the obvious system to have not just audio recording, but even filming of what happened in the Saudi consulate. and they try to make it for any kind of political advantage they can extract out of Saudi Arabia. Now, apparently, the CIA has been coming out saying that they believe that the crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, was involved. People think that they actually they have already set their eyes on a replacement. The CIA, they have already set their eyes on another Saudi prince to replace, hopefully, from their point of view, Mohammed bin Salman. And now Trump is obviously had to adjust his narrative accordingly, and he's saying that it's extremely likely that Mohammed bin Salman was involved. But the main thing, like, they don't really care. I mean, how many journalists, how many peaceful protesters. When they allow, give a bit of more freedom to women in the Saudi kingdom, they but at the same time, some of the women activists that they've been campaigning to get peacefully to get this kind of to facilitating getting this kind of freedom for women, that a number of them are going to get executed. So I mean, so basically, people in the West, they don't care how many journalists, how many peaceful protesters, how many Yemeni. It's a total massacre, they don't care how many people die at the end of the Saudi regime, but it would appear that there is, this Khashoggi murder has been seized by different state agency to try to make it for their own political advantage. Otherwise, they don't care how many. It's a massacre. The Saudi royal family is presiding over a massacre in Yemen, in their own people, and they don't care really. But if they can exploit it, this latest Khashoggi affair, then I would like to say a few words about the relationship between the Labour Party and the targeting. I mean, I support the Labour Party. I support Jeremy Corbyn. It's quite interesting to note how, when in 1997 Tony Blair became Prime Minister, like probably most people in this country, I had great expectations, and I was thinking there was going to be a lot of change both in the life of ordinary people, and and maybe also something was going to trickle down to target individuals. But obviously, it was, to call that a disappointment would be an understatement. And actually, I think in terms of targeting, my personal target, I don't know about other people in this country, but my personal target became a lot worse, became a lot more sinister and dark and intrusive during during the years when Tony Blair was Prime Minister. I think Tony Blair was not really a Labour Prime Minister. He was a piece of work. And there is many story. I don't want to be sued for libel or something, but there is many story about Tony Blair before he became Prime Minister. He was getting up to him afterward and stuff. So, I mean, dig them up for yourself. I mean, the guy was he's a genuine piece of work. And but so obviously that was not a genuine Labour government, which so I support the Labour government at the moment. I support Jeremy Corbyn, but it's quite obvious that they don't want to know about targeting. I remember before Jeremy Corbyn became Prime Minister, when he was just a campaigning MP, you can find it all over the place. If you go to protest, the demonstration was already there, mingling with the people. So I remember at the time I managed to give him some of our literature, meaning Layers, London and Tolkien literature, up to 3 times, I think maybe possibly even 4 times. And I never had a chance to have a proper conversation because, all the time it was like talking to any number of other people. So I didn't want to intrude into their conversation. So I was just managed to hand the leaflet over from some distance. I mean, then I was going to make myself scarce and disappear or something, and not to intrude and not to be rude. But so the interesting, strange thing is that he kept taking the leaflet. We're talking mainly about one main leaflet. He kept taking it even after the first time. I mean, could have been saying, "Oh, thank you very much, I got one already." But he kept taking it. But he never got back to me in any way, shape, or form. And then after he became leader of the Labour Party, I remember we were just outside the Parliament entrance. There were 3 or 4 of us, and Jeremy Corbyn was coming back into Parliament. Was talking to an elderly gentleman, and they were working together, coming back into Parliament. And he was just he was walking just a few feet away from us. So I offered because he took it already 4 times. I thought they were going to take it again. I offered him some of our literature again. This time he completely ignored us after becoming member of the Labour Party. And then after that, sometime after that, I sent to his office an email, which was actually accompanied by a petition, which was, it was signed by some 600 people about a targeting petition. 600 maybe in terms of ordinary politics is probably a very small number, I suppose. And then when I was arguing quite very rationally, that is, I was arguing very rationally that, we have this, basically, this, a number of people in this country and other countries being targeted by this 24/7 program of harassment, being sanctioned by the authorities, being sanctioned by local authorities. I was arguing that in a way, this is basically just, saying that is happening in so many countries, saying that is happening to so many people, saying that we are all saying the same identical thing, saying that, even though it would be very difficult to get anyone to acknowledge the existence of these programs, either in politicians or mainstream media people, or even alternative media people, not always, but most of the time. So even though there is no acknowledgement, it seems to be quite big. You can even describe it as a NATO-wide program. You can even describe it as a program which goes beyond NATO, which includes countries in Africa, in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, as many targeted individuals which have been trying to travel around. I know very well. So I was pointing out to Jeremy that this is it's not just something happening to a number of people. It's quite a large number of people. If you go looking online, and we are all over the internet, but that doesn't exist anyway. I was arguing with Jeremy that basically what we're dealing here is like some kind of social engineering program, which they're trying to use, harassment and a different form of sabotaging, extrajudicial punishment to create an extra layer of social control. And so we have you may call it the third layer of social control. We have the first layer, of social control, which is the judicial system, which is totally rigged with all the pedophile judges, and and basically is supposed to be something which serving justice to the people in reality is totally rigged from top to bottom, starting with the lawyer, which is only they're very choosy who are they going to defend, or so try to go to a lawyer, try to with case of targeting it, we see how much support, and they probably all been very, very busy, and sorry, I'm very busy at the moment. And so the judicial system is the first layer of social control, which is totally rigged from top to bottom. Is trying to basically defend the interest of the, what they call the deep state, the terror financial banking cartel, banking syndicate, and all these people. So they're supposed to be there to serve justice to the people. But the first layer of social control. Second layer of social control is the psychiatric system. There has been people that have been contacted RMP talking in a very rational way about targeting it. And I think they know they get like a knock on the door with two doctors knocking on their door, trying to make out that they're mentally ill. But we know about in the old Soviet Union, if you were a dissident, as likely as not, you were being consigned to a mental asylum. But this thing is very common. If you look at what's happening to Melanie Shaw and so many other people, target individuals, try to talk about their targeting. So, I mean, is the psychiatric system, modern psychiatry is little more than 100 years old. It's not older than the CIA and MK Ultra program, modern psychiatry. Modern psychiatry is in bed with the deep state, with the intelligence community. It's just by and large the system of is the second system of social control. I was trying to argue with Jeremy that in my email I sent to his office to get the attention of Jeremy or his people anyway, that what they're developing, what they're doing to us is actually developing it's like a social engineering program which is using harassment and all other form of extrajudicial punishment, sabotaging the life of the targeted person to create a third layer of social control. But so it was totally rational. I did not even mention electronic harassment, but I never got a reply. So so obviously, I think is but I support the Labour Party at the moment. I support Jeremy Corbyn. I think if Jeremy Corbyn were to become Prime Minister, it would be very good for this country. We're going to stop this austerity insanity, which is basically the only purpose of austerity is, you may say to funnel money from the poorest in society to the richest in society. You may or may not know that is a fact that since 2008, when there was this whole economic crisis or whatever, the wealth of the rich in society, I'm not making it up, the wealth of the rich in society have been increasing threefold in 10 years. Yeah? So I think the Labour Party will enter this austerity insanity, which is, on the face of it, you may say, is the only purpose of austerity is to funnel and to extract wealth from the poorest in society and to pass it on to the richest in society. But I think they're not so much concerned about money at the end of the day, because these people control the Bank of England, they control the Federal Reserve, they control most central bank in the world. If they want money, they can just print it. No, I think the real purpose is not so much to extract wealth from the poorest in society to pass it on to the richest in society. The real purpose is to disempower further the poorest in society to enslave them. Because nowadays, you have a lot of people that to survive, they need to hold down a couple of jobs, turning to even before they go home, they have to make a stop to the food bank to feed their kids. Everyone has, everyone is a huge amount of debt. So your students, they're all in debt now. They leave university with up to £50,000 in debt, and so everyone is in debt. You have your mortgage. Often they give you a mortgage in the knowledge that you won't be able to repay it, so they already think about repossessing your property when they give you a mortgage. And then the private loan, credit card. I think the Labour Party will put end to at least to some of his insanity, to some of his insanity. But it's quite interesting. The debt thing is quite interesting because we know for a fact that the policy since the end of World War II, even before, the policy has been to try to get countries indebted, right? So they were, following different strategy to get country indebted. So they were sabotaging their economy, they were interfering with their currency, and so they're waiting for the time when the country was forced to go to the IMF for a loan. And then after that, they start completely dictating policies, controlling the countries, buying up all the best country assets for peanuts. So we know this has been done. This has been done deliberately for many, many years to enslave country, to control country, to buy off all the country best assets. But when they start doing this thing with ordinary people, like first they start moving up to maybe 70% of all the manufacturing job to Southeast Asia, and then they start freezing or cutting people wages. They started to cutting welfare, cutting people benefit. And so people, obviously, they're forced to survive, to put food on the table, everyone is getting hugely indebted because, for instance, it's been estimated that in the United States, the household debt is the equivalent of the national debt. So you have maybe 20 trillion of national debt, and you have the equivalent 20 trillion of household debt. It seems to be the same in this country. The national debt is the equivalent of the household debt. We are talking huge sum of money which is never going to be repaid anyway. But so when they start doing all this thing, moving all the manufacturing job to Southeast Asia, and cutting people wages, freezing people wages, getting rid of a lot of welfare, getting rid of a lot of benefit. Are we supposed to think that happened kind of naturally? It's like, they were giving out all these loans with just a middle manager, trying to get some bonus. So I think it was done deliberately by design. I mean, in the same way, they use that as for doing everything possible to get country into debt. And now we have the case of Greece when Goldman Sachs falsified the accounts to give to be able to give some loan to so that the IMF could give some loans to the European Central Bank could give some loan to Greece. But they knew perfectly well that Greece was never going to be in the position to repay the debts. So are we supposed to think that when they start doing the stuff with ordinary people, following exactly the same pattern, forcing people into debt, no one is everyone is in debt, so no one is the people just keep their head down. They don't want to get any more. They have already enough trouble with their debt. They don't want to, like, get some extra trouble, getting into activism or complaining about all the abomination, all the abominations going on in politics and the economy or something, So are we supposed to think that when they start doing the same thing, exactly the same thing, getting people into debt deliberately with people, that was not part of a grand plan? It was part of a grand plan when they start doing it to countries. So basically, to make a long story short, all these different threads, they point in one direction. They want to enslave people. They want to enslave people, so then we're talking to enslaved people. We may say a few words about G5. G5 seems to be quite important for their plans to enslave people, because with G5, with the Internet of Things, they already have a colossal amount of information on everybody. With G5, the Internet of Things, they're going to have even more information on people, but they will be able, with the Internet of Things, G5, they will be able to interfere more with the life of people, because all these electrical appliances can be hacked, and all the electrical appliances and devices that are connected to will be connected to G5, to the Internet of Things. They will be susceptible to be hacked, to be interfered with, to be manipulated. So, but also, and that's another thing, because it's a way about, like, bread and circus games. So in a way, with the G5, they'll be able to flood people with tons and tons of mindless entertainment. So, all this garbage we have been fed now. All this. So anyway, so G5 seems to be quite important in their plans to completely enslave people. And it's quite interesting that they start felling all kinds of trees everywhere, all over the place. people get upset, people don't understand why they're doing this. But apparently, the one thing is that G5, they will, this kind of, mobile phone masts that they are ubiquitous now, they will have to be, they need to be even more of them, because the G5 signals don't carry very far. So in a way, every couple of blocks, you need to have one of these aerials, G5 aerials. So they're going to be practically everywhere. They're probably going to disguise them in other things, and the thing is that this G5 doesn't seem to like trees. Like we see in I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I don't like people like, you have an official story, people start questioning it just for the sake of questioning it. I don't really like that. It's discredit everyone, every truth, or everyone who try to go to the bottom of things to get discredited by these things. I don't like people who like to keep questioning the official story for the sake of questioning the official story. But if you look at all the pictures coming out of California, it's difficult not to notice that all, when it comes to buildings or cars, all things which have some metal in them, which have some conductive metal in them, they probably not just burn to the ground, they just flatten to the ground. It's like a ground zero. When you look at building and car, it's like a ground zero. But then, all the objects which are not don't have any metal in them, like just side by side, but a house which is being completely flattened is all surrounded by trees which are completely untouched. And then you have, just in front of the house, you see the house, it's not just being burned to the ground, it's being kind of flattened to the ground. It's like ground zero. And then side by side, on the patio of the house, you get all these plastic chair, plastic table, completely untouched. And then I even noticed a little ceramic gnome on one of this picture, just a short distance, a few feet away from the house. It was completely flattened. I wouldn't even say burned. I mean, I'd say flattened to the ground. You have this little ceramic gnome, completely pristine and untouched. So yeah, so going back to G5, I mean, just a little afterthought about what's happening in California, which, but people, as long as it doesn't affect me, I tell you all this strange stuff going on around me. As long as it doesn't affect me, I don't care. I go home and watch reality TV, and until the day is going to affect me, and then things are going to be so screwed up that I'm pretty sure I'm never going to get any help from anyone. So that does seem to be the logic of this whole thing. Like, until it's, I'm worried about my student debt and my mortgage and my loan and going to the food bank and holding down two jobs. So it's all these strange things I notice out of the corner of my eyes, but I don't really want to know. I prefer to go home and watch reality TV or something. And until today is going to affect you, then who's going to help you? Or support you? But so going back to the G5, it's a period that it doesn't like tree because, like we see in California, tree or ceramic object or plastic objects are not very conductive with regard to microwaves radiation. So it's not falling off all this tree. I mean, there was in front of the building where I live, which is this like a block of flats. I mean, there was this beautiful tree, and for no reason whatsoever that I'm aware of, one of the days they come out, they say, then what's left now is a little bit of sawdust on the ground. The thing is gone. And there was some city in the north of England where they start felling all these trees. People get really upset because they couldn't understand the reason why they destroy all these trees. So they also said, so they intend of getting rid of as many trees as possible because to facilitate the G5 signal. And we don't know what this thing is going to do to people's brains and So that's I wanted to touch on a few subjects, and I was also would like to talk about the Unity for Julian campaign, which is, I believe, as far as I think it's been initiated by this lady from New Zealand, Susie Dawson. She is the president of the New Zealand Internet Party, which is some sort of pirate party, or like the Icelandic Pirate Party with Brigitte Johnson-Dottir. She's living in Moscow. She's asking the Russian government for political asylum because she was worried for her own safety and maybe the safety of her family, and so she's now in Moscow. Interesting enough, asking the Russian government for political asylum. She was the initiator. She was the one who started this Unity for Julian campaign, and I think she's doing fantastic work. She's doing excellent work. However, when I contact Susie and saying she wanted to get, target individual involved in the campaign, I never received any reply. So it's all a bit, it's all a bit strange because I was on. They do this kind of broadcast every few days, or Unity for Julian broadcast, when a lot of luminaires in the whistleblowing community and in the alternative media community are taking part and having a discussion on different things. And I noticed, first thing I noticed that they don't seem to be interested in working with target individuals. in spite of a certain amount of evidence that Julian in the embassy may have himself been targeted with electronic harassment, because in his last video on Raptly, toward the end, he said, he was asked about the Internet of Things, and he replied by mentioning, not so much talking about the Internet of Things, well, in a way, yes, he's connected. He mentioned the fact that we are surrounded by this evil, intelligent dust, and I quote his exact words. So that may be some evidence that Julian himself. But apparently Susie Dawson and maybe the people working with Susie, I don't mean to say, I don't mean to criticize, I don't mean to, I don't mean to criticize Susie Dawson. I mean, a lot of people don't want to work with target individuals. She's not the only one. She, on a different way, she's doing excellent work. So it's not meant as criticism as such, but it would appear that she's not. I contacted her twice about, about working with target individuals. She doesn't seem to be interested. But I think, she doesn't seem to be interested, but she said, she said, oh, we need really to get people attention. So she said, that was a couple of weeks ago, she said on one of these broadcasts, she said, we need to have people in front of Harrods, which is just next door to the Ecuadorian embassy in Nicebridge, with pots and pans, alerting people that Julian life is in danger. It was a very commendable suggestion, but I don't think it has been followed up by any action. As far as I know, it was a very commendable, a fantastic suggestion. Also to focusing on the fact that Julian's life is in real danger. His health is in danger, his mental health is in danger. But as far as I'm aware, it was just, it's a throwaway suggestion which has not been followed by any action. So it's quite interesting. Also, it was another broadcast. That was maybe 3 weeks ago. I was listening, I was posting some comment on the chat. And some people were talking about, the people conducting the discussion were talking about a lot of good things. The people taking part in the chat, they were talking quite a lot of things. They were talking about, they really talking garbage. But I suspect that these people, they're working out of warehouse run by, MI5, MI6, GCSQ, the CIA, the NSA. So, a lot of people talking nonsense, and they probably, where they're coming from. But there seemed to be a bit of interaction between they were paying some attention to the chat. Occasionally someone was making some interesting comment, they were replying to it. So as it happened, on the following day, it was on a Saturday, on the following day, right, I posted something to let people know that between 4 and 6, there was going to be a vigil outside the Ecuadorian embassy organized by, by Julian supporters in London. Because all these people taking part in this, most of them, this part in this international conference call about unity for Julian, they are scattered all over the different corners of the world. Most of them are not in London. So I posted this little note. I say, look, tomorrow, if you're interested, there is between 2 and 4, there is going to be a vigil. Tomorrow, Sunday, is going to be a vigil outside the Ecuadorian embassy. Do you want to talk about that in the main broadcast? Do you want to advertise it? Yeah. Deafening silence. Just Susie Dawson, just, slightly early in the program, I was talking about we need to have people with pots and pans like arrows and drawing attention to the fact that Julian's life is in danger. I don't think there's been any follow-up on that. Oh, she said every Saturday. Okay. But then on the same broadcast, I was posted once as like, oh look, tomorrow if people are interested, there's going to be actual real live video outside the Ecuadorian embassy organized by Julian supporters in London. So if people are interested to advertise it, to come along, completely ignored by everybody, completely ignored by the people in the chat, completely ignored by the people doing the broadcasting. So I posted a second time. I posted a third time, still completely ignored by everybody. Yeah, that is the same broadcast when Susie was encouraging people to go every Saturday outside Arrows with pots and pans and shouting about Julian life being in danger, which as far as I know has never happened. But so I was saying, then the fourth time I get a bit on nerve, I get a bit frustrated. So I said, like, hello guys, like if any one of you is interested into something happening in the real world, I put them in capital in the real world. Tomorrow there is, if you would like to advertise it or to, make it known, through broadcasting, there is going to be this video outside the Ecuadorian embassy. As far as I know, again, it was completely ignored by everybody. So after a while, I left the chat and I left the conference call. But so it seemed to be, and it seemed to be. I think Susie Dawson is a very good person. I think she's acting in complete good faith in what she does. But again, there we come across some of the problems, like people don't want to work with target individual, like we don't exist. So if, most of the time when you talk about alternative media, activism, and whistleblowers, target individuals, they just don't want to know. Even if most of the time I've been subjected to some form of organized stalking anyway. Susie Dawson, she's in Moscow asking for political asylum. But they don't want to know about target individuals. That's one thing. So I don't want to. I honestly think Susie Dawson she's acting in good faith. She's doing what she thinks is right. She's a very good person. But we're coming across again. The same things. The same thing being that they don't want to target individual. We don't exist. They don't want to support us. They don't want to work with us. But that's the first thing, right? The second thing is they are concerned about Julian's safety. I am concerned about Julian's safety. Yeah. They are talking about getting, every Saturday, getting people at Arrows, banging pots and pans and alerting people to the fact that Julian's life is in danger. I am concerned about Julian's safety. I can get through at least 3 or 4 people together, and we can go either outside the embassy or outside Arrows, and even without the pots and pans, we can alert people to the fact that Julian's life is in danger and what they're doing to him. Yeah, but they're not interested. You see, they're interested in launching this idea on the internet, which, as far as I know, didn't have any traction whatsoever. But then if I say, like I said in one of my messages to Susie, I say, I can get together with people, either outside Arrows or outside the embassy, even without the pots and pans, we can shout and make clear to people all the horrible things they're doing to Julian, that basically putting his mental health, his physical health, his life in danger. They're not interested. So, I mean, they're interested in, this is something else. This is this kind of schizophrenia whereby, I don't want to belittle these people. The people are concerned about Julian's well-being, while most of the people don't give a proverbial, but, so I don't want to belittle them. I like them, I love them, I respect them, I look up to them, whatever. But, but there seems to be another the kind of schizophrenia here at work, which is like, these people, a lot of people like to do all these things on the internet, and so you get all these, like, all these, I don't want to name anyone, it's all people I greatly respect, but you get all these luminaires and, household name, whistleblower, talking to each other online and say we're going to do something for Julian. Okay, they're doing something for Julian because, a lot of people are watching this video and stuff and became more aware, but they seem that when it comes, they seem their comfort zone is very much on the internet, that they feel comfortable there. But when, like, I say, look guys, there is this thing going on tomorrow, you're talking about helping Julian, you're talking about pots and pounds of sayarats, there is this thing like tomorrow, which is probably likely to be attended by quite a number of people, and it was attended by quite a number of people, because I was there the following day, I was there outside the embassy, yeah? And they didn't even bother to, spread the information online. I posted 3 times, and then the first time I got a bit frustrated. I said, look guys, if I can get you interested in something happening in the real world, capital letters, tomorrow there is this thing between 2 and 4 in front of the embassy, which is probably going to be attended by quite a number of people. Completely ignored by everybody, completely ignored by the people on the chat, completely ignored by the people conducting the conference call. They could have said, oh look, yeah, it's a chance to make people aware. I'm sure there'll be a broadcasting this thing, and I'm sure there are quite a number of people in London watching. Let them know that there is something going on tomorrow outside the embassy. Not a single word. Yeah? I've been posting this information 4 times, completely ignored by everybody. Then following day I went to the embassy, there was quite a number of people there. Probably some of the people like to do things in the real world as opposed to just doing things online in this kind of bubble. But I have great respect for Susie Dawson. She's not the only one. I'm talking about general trends here. Yeah. So first thing, apparently they look down on target individuals. They don't want to work with us, even though there is some evidence that Julian Assange. Plenty of evidence being subjected to organized stalking, people during the night throwing leader stone against his window to keep him awake, and then he had to move to a different room inside the embassy to get some sleep at night. Being talked about everyone being surrounded by evil, intelligent dust is very words, so which give you some clue that may be a victim of electronic harassment also, but they don't want to work with target individuals though. And they seem like to do the stuff in this kind of internet bubble, yeah? They seem to do things in this kind of internet bubble. They feel that's their comfort zone, but then if people start to intrude with reality, look, there's something happening tomorrow, it's probably going to be well attended in front of the embassy, and they feel comfortable with that, because it's like it's going to puncture their like nice internet bubbles when they feel very comfortable inside and the rest of it. So yeah, so So, you have on the central articles, you have Susie Dawson trying to launch this idea. Let's be every Saturday with pots and pounds outside Arrows, just next door to the embassy, and alert people to the fact that Julian life is in danger. Yeah? And then on the simple broadcast, I posted on the chat 4 times the information that there is something going on the next day, well attended. I was there. In front of the embassy, Julian supporters in London, and they think, oh God, I'm trying to launch this thing about every Saturday, and now there's this other thing. I want people to know about this. So all the people watching that are based in London, they're going to be there tomorrow. Not a single word. So first thing, they don't want to work with target individual until, they're going to get targeted and said that they're going to see what it's like to get any support from anyone. And they, they have their own way of doing things on the internet sphere. Sometimes it's like, they don't want reality to intrude, to puncture their little internet bubble, So, so basically, Susie Dawson launched this idea, basically, let's Let's have a few people every Saturday outside Harrods with pots and pans and alert people to the fact that Julian life is in danger, which as far as I am aware, I think I have my ear to the ground quite a lot, I didn't have any traction whatsoever. But I'm also concerned about Julian's safety. I can get at least 3 or 4 people to be, outside, either outside the embassy or outside Harrods, without the pots and pans, but just shouting about, all the horrible thing being done to Julian and the fact that it's affecting his physical health, his mental health, his life is in danger. And they're not interested. So you see, so you have this problem. You deal with whistleblower, activists, alternative media. They, like most politicians and the mainstream media, when it comes to target individuals, they just don't want to know. But then, if you go back talking about Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party, I think, I support the Labour Party. I support Jeremy Corbyn. I'm also very intellectually very honest. I think. If we talk about Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party, I think they have big trouble protecting themselves. If we talk about Jeremy Corbyn, his team in the Labour Party, then there is still a lot of Blairite and Pierre that is just, I don't want to. So I'm not going to say what I think about the Labour Blairite and Pierre. But then talking about Jeremy Corbyn, his team, the people, his closest political allies, stuff, they can even protect themselves from the deep state, which is pushing them most of the time in all directions. That is forcing them to backtrack on statements, and all the time they probably get scrambling around trying to protect themselves from the deep state, from the attentions of the deep state. So imagine if they can protect targeted individuals from the deep state, can even protect themselves from the deep state. I'm not saying in a malevolent kind of way, I support Jeremy Corbyn, I support his team and stuff, but let's be honest, they're not, at the moment there's no help coming to targeted individuals from Jeremy Corbyn and his team. And even though I support them and I like them, I want to be honest, they can even protect themselves from the deep state. So imagine if they are able to protect, even if they want to, which is questionable, from the deep state. If they manage to get into government, which would be a rather different position then, we don't know. We don't know if there is, I'm sure a lot of people are going to benefit. I don't know if target individuals are going to benefit. It's just the same old routine of being tortured at night, harassed during the day, harassed in shop, harassed at home, and the rest of it. So, I'm sure the Labour Party, if they, because it's a deep state in this country is doing something. So, if Jeremy Corbyn were able to become Prime Minister, because, as I say, it's a deep state in this country is really something. So if Jeremy Corbyn is going to become Prime Minister, I'm sure a lot of people in this country are going to benefit, and because at the moment even the United Nations say, we talk about the atmosphere of fear people have in this country, fear regarding to their debts, fear with regard to their welfare card or benefit cards. So affecting mental health. So it's a massacre. It's a massacre of the poor, the homeless, and the disabled at the moment. It's a massacre. So I'm sure these things are going to change in the sense if Jeremy Corbyn were to manage to become Prime Minister. When I say if they can win an election, but also if they can manage to protect themselves from the deep state, to be honest. If Jeremy Corbyn were to become Prime Minister, things are going to improve in this country for a lot of people. I support him. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if things are going to change for target individuals, because things, no matter who's in government, things most of the time, they never seem to change for target individuals. So that's some of this things I was going to talk today. I also, would like to point out at the moment we are all living like prisoners in this kind of web state matrix. And when I say matrix, I don't mean any fanciful conspiracy theories. I mean the fact that we are just like we are surrounded on every side by this Orwellian reality of spying, and all the stuff they do to interfere in people's life, to manipulate them. So I mean, to brainwash them. So I mean, we are surrounded. And if you are an ordinary person making money for them, and and you spend your free time watching reality TV and stuff, they probably they're going to leave you alone within reason. So you're still probably spending most of your time running around trying to service your debt and running to the food bank and having 2 or 3 jobs. But apart from that, they're probably going to leave you more or less alone. But we are surrounded by this murderous matrix, and if you are instead a target individual, meaning guinea pig, what we mean by target individual, we mean the guinea pig uh, used to test all the Frankenstein technology, all the social engineering program they will in the future roll out on an increased number of people. Everyone causing them any problem. That's the plan. So target, but if you're a target individual, if you're a political activist, if you're a whistleblower, if you're active in the alternative media, if you are one of the handful of investigative journalists left, because it's very much an endangered species, but it's the 3 or 4 left, then you get totally crashed, because we are surrounded by this murderous matrix that have used all these different technology stuff to completely crash you, zoom on you, completely crash you. That's the reality. But it's one thing that is quite remarkable. The fact that we don't seem to be able to help each other to work together. I mean, there was instances, people doing something together, or giving each other either, but most of the time, like we are all atomized, like taking us out one at a time and with total impunity, most of the time we fighting with each other, we don't work together, that's a good example, the other night, I mean, with the Susie Dawson at the Unity for Julian. I don't mean to criticize Susie Dawson, I think she's a fantastic human being, but, she launches a day on the same broadcast, let's meet us, let's get people. No, she knows she won't be, she's in Moscow, she won't be able to be there. But she said, let's get people in London on 9 hours every Saturday with pots and pans, alerting people to the danger of people, life, sanity, whatever. And say, look, there's something actually going on tomorrow. It's on the chat, I posted 4 times. Something going on tomorrow. You may want to let all the people watching the broadcast know. Not a single word. So that's a bit strange. So we seem like these people obviously out the deep state, the terror financial banking cartel, the terror financial banking syndicate. They seem to be very good for self-interest. They seem to be very good to coordinate and work together. And so one team is like a target individual, political activist, whistleblower, people working in the alternative media, investigative journalists. They just, there is a way we are on our own. And most of the time there is, everyone is concerned about his own little universe, or the things they want to do, or the initiatives they want to launch, but there is very little into way of people really working together, really supporting each other, real friendship, and people meeting in person, and working together, helping each other, trusting each other. And that's is like key, because everything need to, everything, like we've been like for For many decades, we have been brainwashed about globalization. Globalization is good for you, right? But the end of the globalization is actually localization. If you can get rid of this monster state, which is oppressing us and doing very little else and stealing our money, if you can get the local community to get together, a ground level democracy, that's the end of the globalization. Globalization is just a pile of garbage, as most people know, and used to, self-serving for the terror financial banking syndicate. In the same way of localization is the answer. Doing the thing from the ground up, is the answer to the insanity of globalization, the monstrosity, the abomination of globalization. In the same thing, it's good for target individual to have big initiative, to try to have umbrella organization, big initiative, TI Day, conferences and such like, so it's very good. But also I think the main thing, what is even more important than that, possibly equally as important, but I would say more important, is for target individual to find a way of try to find out if there is other target individual locally, and then meeting up, try to create a relationship of trust, because it's no point people getting together if they don't trust each other, right? I mean, so try to develop a relationship of trust, a friendship, and then out of that, people can start, like doing stuff together if they really trust each other. I mean, that for me is the main thing. I mean, you may be even go to even more basic level, whereby, like what I did advise people when I spoke at the Berlin conference. That's what was one of my main things. Like, you may even live in a rural area, but you still, instead of feeling totally powerless, you still can find a way of empowering yourself. That you can, like, print your own literature. If you don't feel like writing your own literature, there's plenty of PDF, leaflets created by target individuals all over the internet. You can download for free and then print a number of them. And then you find your local shopping mall, even if you live in a rural area. Then if you live in a big city, you have a lot of opportunity, marches, political events, and the rest of it. But even if you live in a rural area, you can still go to find out your local shopping mall and go there and live it. And instead of being totally powerless, which is a very destructive and damaging and corrosive feeling, you start feeling that you have some power to bother these criminals, these insane, demented criminals doing this kind of stuff, thinking that they're doing a good thing. So they can, use this stuff to completely enslave and control humanity and create some kind of, 1984 utopia or dystopia or whatever. So, but then beyond that, so that's just the basic level. Even if you feel you can break out of your isolation, you can still print your literature, find out where your local shopping mall is, go to leaflet there once, twice, 3 times every week, make you feel empowered. I'm sure at least a number of people, if you feel isolated, a number of people will stop to talk to you anyway. Maybe not that many, but a number, so you can start, it's some kind of communication. Then maybe even after a while, you may even find a friend, make friends with people, some people. So that's the most basic level. Beyond that, if you want to be a bit more ambitious and do things locally, then the thing is to find out where all the target individuals in your area are, and then obviously find out, try to look for trustworthy, because unfortunately, without me to point the finger in any specific direction, the truth is that the the target individual is infiltrated from top to bottom, right? That's the way they keep control of us. They keep us isolated. They keep prevent us from working together, etc. So that's so. Yeah. So find out where the local TI are, and then try to spend some time and energy, try to find out, check people out, speak with them over the phone, try to find out who are the trustworthy ones, and then try to, to try to establish a relationship based on trust and friendship. And then, after that, people may want to organize small meetings, and after that, we may start thinking about some form of activism. Like, if you think, like, for instance, in this country, people may try to speak or to contact a member of parliament. And if you go by yourself is one thing. If you manage to bring 3 or 4 people with you, and you're saying the same thing in a rational, consistent way, then it probably have a completely different kind of impact. That they don't like us doing this kind of stuff, but you need to have a relationship of trust, because otherwise you go 3 or 4 people to talk to your local MP, and then I live in the real world. We need to talk about this stuff. We cannot pretend it doesn't exist. You go with 3 or 4 people talking to your local MP, and then you bring along the plant, and the plant start talking crazy, and then your local MP think you are crazy. So so the first thing, find where the local TI are, but also try to do a lot of work, try to find out who is who are the ones which are trustworthy. If there is something dodgy about someone, just avoid them. Don't waste any more time. Don't agonize about, should I trust this person? Something dodgy about someone, just avoid them and focus on the people you think you can trust. I think that is important to have big initiative. We took part in London with Les, London and Stalking took part in the TI Day on the 29th of August. We had 9 people meeting up in Hyde Park. Unfortunately, by the time we got to BBC Broadcasting House, there were only 6 people left, so we had already lost 3 people, but that's the way it goes. But so it's important to have big initiative, but I think to be honest with you, what I think is even more important is that everything should start at the local level, started to build from the ground up. So yeah, first thing you can do activism on your own. If there is no other option, you can still print your own leaflet, go around leafleting. It make you feel a lot better. You spend some time out of the house. You meet people, you talk with people, you make friends. So that's the first. Then beyond that, the next level, try to really spend some time in finding out where are the TI in your local area, right? And try to put really some time and effort and try to find out who's trustworthy and who's not, because as I said, without saying a single word, to point the finger in any specific direction or absolutely not, but we need to acknowledge that the TI community is infiltrated from the very top, from top to bottom, right? So, and it's really bad in the activism, normal, standard, let's say, ordinary activism community. These two journalists that they published this book called Undercover, and they charted all the activity of this. What I think originally was called the SDS, which was the Special Demonstration Squad. So it's showing that they've been infiltrating like thousands of activism group, and most of the time, there were people with some mild concern about the environment, or people worried about animal welfare, also this kind of organization they were infiltrating. So, they are crazy. They are crazy. They have this, they're following this idea of global control. They're insane. They're totally insane. They're totally deranged. And then they get the people working for them to do all this crazy thing like infiltrating all these kind of groups, and totally peaceful, totally law-abiding. So they are crazy. But so we know the extent to whom the ordinary activism community has been infiltrated over the years. And I'm sure it's been happening in this country. It's been happening in the United States. It's been happening in all European countries, and etc. etc. And to the extent that there is quite interesting a little anecdote in the book Undercover, that they've been researching this subject, talking to other people, it would appear that for many years they had a group of 3 people, which was like liaising between ecological group in this country and other ecological group in a group of people having concern about the environment in Ireland, in Germany. It would appear that actually two out of 3 people, 2 out of this group of 3 people, they were actually police informers. So you have one of this person who regularly was a guy calling himself Mark Stone. His real name was Mark Kennedy, so it was finally exposed at some point. The other guy, I think it was someone calling himself Mark Jacobs or something. So basically, to make a long story short, it would appear that they had this group of people liaising between, environmental group in this country and in Ireland, in Germany. Out of 3 people, 2 of them were police informers, so 66%. So, if I honestly believe that if the activism community is so infiltrated, I think the TI community is a lot more infiltrated. So top to bottom. So what I think the way forward is for people to find out where are all the target individuals in your area, and then that requires a certain amount of work. It's not something. Find out where they are. It does require a certain amount of work and dedication to find out who are the transport people. It does also require a certain amount of work and dedication, and then start establishing trust, and then try to establish some friendship, and then we may start up meetings, maybe 3, 4 people, and maybe they don't worry too much about having large meeting. It's better to have a small meeting of people who all trust each other, that have a large open meeting of to help people that just come along to cause trouble. So don't worry about the size of the meeting, but maybe start having a meeting. It would be nice to have a big meeting of trustworthy people. But don't think too much about the numbers. Think about, you want to have trustworthy people there, and then after that you may start thinking and talking about doing something together in terms of people going to talk with their member of parliament, or being in front of parliament, like we did many times in 2016 to 2017, but possibly also because I was jumping into this thing without being too particular about the details. Then all of a sudden everything started to fall up. Everyone disappeared. So because they were probably I didn't do what I just mentioned, which is like doing some work to make sure that spending some time finding out where the local people are, if they are trustworthy, making sure maybe if you have a meeting, don't just to have a meeting of trustworthy people. So I didn't do all that, and then what happened at the end of 2017? Everyone started to disappear. I didn't really build a solid edifice, you may say, and then and then it's quite interesting that when everyone started to disappear, because I believe, looking back, I believe that was. I mean, it brought along a great effort on the part of the deep state, of all these people, to pull the plug on Les, Landon, and Tolkien. And when did they decide to pull the plug on Landon and Tolkien? It was after we did 3 visuals outside the Ecuadorian embassy. I was there with the microphone shouting, Julian, please help us expose organized Tolkien and electronic harassment, because his window is very close to the street. Julian, please Google organized Tolkien and electronic harassment. Julian, please, Julian, you may be a victim of electronic harassment too. Yeah, and then, so we had one, the first one, and I think it was maybe 2017, end of August. They're all TV, they are all over the internet, they've been watched by a lot of people. We had the first one, I think it was end of August 2017 or beginning of September. And then it was 4 or 5 target individuals with me. And then we had the second one, slightly later in the year. I think it may have been maybe end of September, beginning of October. I think mid-September probably was, it's quite a long time now, so I don't remember all the details, but second one was maybe mid of September. There was again maybe slightly smaller number of TI with me, maybe it was more like 3 or 4, including myself. And then I had the third one. I think it was at the end of September. It was at the very end of September. And so I was tortured all night with direct energy microwave weapon. I couldn't sleep at all. I was feeling like really ill. But I managed to drag myself down in time because I organized an event, so I wanted to be there in time to welcome other people if they decided to join me. And no one came. This time, no one came. And that was a bit the beginning of the end for Les, Landon, and Tolkien, because after that, I kept organizing House of Parliament videos regularly, and most of the time, no one was coming. So there was still a few occasions, one or two people coming, but then the next week, no one was coming. And then I tried to keep going, and then I tried to keep organizing things into January this year, maybe even a bit of February. And then I had to give up because I had to give up. And I think, my being outside the embassy there with a megaphone and with all the people and shouting, Julian, please help us expose organized Tolkien and electronic harassment. Julian, please Google organize. I was saying also many other things, like we are all over the internet, etc., etc. And Julian, please Google organized Tolkien and electronic harassment. Julian, you may be a victim of electronic harassment too. Look it up. I think I really, my activism usually has been upsetting to people quite a lot, but this one was really, I think, in many ways, really the straw which broke the camel back, I think, because then after that, all kind of things started to happen to me which completely destroyed my quality of life. What little quality of life I had at the end of 2017, now we may say is kind of gone. So I don't know what kind of way they used to, what they did exactly. I have a few ideas. I don't know what they exactly did to discourage people from coming to my to London and stalking events. But I know they can, if they want, to move the situation in this direction, whereby no one else is no longer coming. They probably have 100 different way of, obviously, if people were just plants, they obviously they're just they only. I don't say all the people who came to the previous event were plants at all, but I say just looking at all the different scenarios. If people are plants, all they have to do, or crisis actors coming along, all they have to do is to tell them stop coming. So that's pretty simple. If people are genuine TI, they probably have 100 different way of putting them under pressure, or blackmailing them, or to stop coming to events and things. So basically, we had these three videos outside the Ecuadorian embassy shouting. I'm pretty sure Julian could. Well, actually, interestingly enough, on the third occasion, just when I was on my own, I think something quite interesting happened, because Julian briefly showed his head down this alleyway. People may have been watching video, even people who are not in London, even people who are not being by the Ecuadorian embassy, they may have been watching this video. And you have this little alleyway on the side of the embassy, and Julian windows are on the right hand side, just toward the end, at the end of the alleyway. So he showed it. Was quite interesting, because there's been a time when it's not been showing himself to the public for opening the window, or being at the window, or coming to the balcony for years. Either because he didn't want to upset the British government, either because it was forbidden by the Ecuadorian government, or either because he had concern about his own personal safety. We don't know. But it's been so. After years, when he didn't make any appearance at the window, not even like lifting a curtain, looking out, or coming on the balcony, nothing at all, staying away from the window. On the third occasion I was there, he briefly showed he showed his face at one of these windows at the and my everlasting regret is that I kind of froze. I kind of froze. Instead of quickly moving towards the window, try to engage in a conversation, I just the first thought which came to my mind was like, he's upset with me. I am disturbing him. He's annoyed with me. That's the first thing that came into my mind. So he shows he's there at the window. I kind of froze. I say hello, but I think I kind of froze, because I think, is he annoyed with me? He wants to be left alone? And by the time I kind of recovered a bit, and I was ready to do something and to talk to him, he already closed the window. There you go. But so I think I have to think I did. I've been all the time. I've been doing TI activism. I've been trying to be creative. Like every day, come up with new ideas to make people pay attention and things. But this one, I think, really, it was particularly disliked by the people running all this program, and then they made to somewhat pull the plug on Les, London and stalking, and then I also start to have all kind of thing in my personal life. Like we are in a situation now when every night probably I get in touch with microwave. It was not so bad before. Like at the time we had this kind of video outside the Ecuadorian embassy at the end of 2007. Things were not this bad, but now every time I get touched with microwave every night, I get kept awake for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. It's almost impossible to get any sleep. So it does. This escalation, I think, I have to think that it just started after we had this three vigil outside the Ecuadorian embassy with the megaphone. And then all kind of other thing, after a while, I get attacked by a neighbor, by a drug dealing neighbor, so I got beaten up. I get attacked anyway. Let's not use the expression beaten up, but I get attacked by a drug dealing neighbor. And then all kind of other things start to happen, which have been, completely destroying what little quality of life I had at the time. So So yeah, I think I've gone through all the subjects I wanted to touch on today. Brexit, and I expect that after in 2 or 3 weeks' time, there's going to be when Theresa May fails to get this agreement through Parliament, there's going to be political chaos. If you always start talking about leadership challenge, a fresh election, a new referendum, is going to be, everyone is going to pull in a different direction. It's going to be political chaos, I think. Give it 2 or 3 weeks. And then I talk about, what's happening with Saudi Arabia, and the fact that the West is, they're quite happy for them to murder all and sundry as long as, they don't, encroach in some Western interest. And then I talk about how I think is for the target individual communities to start working from the ground up. Big initiatives are good, are fantastic, are excellent, but the main thing for me is even more important. People start to work from the ground up. So if you're isolated, you can still print your own leaflet and leaflet. If you if you want to move it to the next level, try to put in some work. There's not something, it can be done. Finding out where the other local TI are in your area, they find out if they are really trustworthy. It's not something, it takes some time, energy, and work and commitment, and then start working together. So that's all I have to say for today, and tomorrow is Wednesday. Is Prime Minister question time. I may or may not be in Westminster. If people are interested in joining me, my telephone number is on my in my Facebook, included in my Facebook information under the About tab. So that's all for today. I hope people may, found some of this material interesting or give them some information. And another thing I would like to touch briefly on is that which I touched on my previous broadcast. Maybe some people didn't watch that, or didn't see that. So is is the fact that obviously you have the feeling that Julian Assange is being victimized in the most horrendous way by the Ecuadorian government. But the interesting thing is that the Ecuadorian government is just acting as a proxy of the United States, deep state anyway. But the interesting thing is that Julian Assange is not the only victim of the Ecuadorian government, because even though this new president called Lenin Moreno, even though there was a complete continuity in the sense that the previous president, Rafael Correa, he was a friend of Julian Assange. He was the one who granted him asylum. He was very popular in the country. He was, he was implementing very populist policies, anti-austerity policies. He was trying to take as many people as possible out of poverty. He will invest in money in the economy, infrastructure, etc. So even though this new president, when then it came to the end of his term, Rafael Correa was no longer, because the Ecuadorian constitution was no longer able to run for president. So Lenin Moreno was elected instead, even though there was complete continuity, because both Rafael Correa and Lenin Moreno are members of the same populist party, which in theory should stand for the rights of poor people, working people, etc., take people out of poverty. However, not just that, but also when Rafael Correa was the president, Lenin Moreno was his vice president. So you can get closer than that. But after he was elected, Lenin Moreno showed himself to be quite a very different kettle of fish, because he started causing up to Washington, causing up to the neocons in Washington, causing up to big business in Ecuador, causing up to the the deep state in Ecuador, causing up to the media, basically. So he was doing it quite unashamedly. Then one member of his own party, which as I said is a populist party, start to complain, and then even member of his government start to complain, and maybe even his vice president start to complain about his political direction. Basically, his vice president is a guy called Jorge Glass. He started to use the judiciary, which is in most countries the judiciary is totally, it's just a criminal organization anyway. That it applies to most countries. Totally twisted, serving the interest of the establishment, the ruling class, victimize poor people every day of the week. So it's no exception. But when he started to use the Ecuadorian judiciary to persecute some of the members of his government, setting them up with trump up corruption charges, because if you want to go after someone, they know everything about everyone, yeah. And even honest people, they can make mistake, they can be distracted, they can do things without meaning. So if you want to go after someone, based on the fact that to start with they know everything about everybody, even the most honest person, like we see with Lula da Silva in Brazil, they can make mistakes, they can be a bit casual about things. If you are one of them, you can murder someone in the street and you get away with it, absolutely easy. But if they start going after someone, they know everything about everybody. They can dig until they can manage to find something. They can, twist it around. So basically, Lenin Moreno, as soon as all member of his government, even his own vice president, start to rebel against him, against his political direction, new political direction, he starts setting everyone up with trump-up corruption charges. And that did apply to various members of his government, but also is applied to the former president, Rafael Correa, Julian Assange's friend, which obviously as soon as this, he starts to become very vocal in criticizing the new course of the Ecuadorian administration. So Rafael Correa was set up with trump-up corruption charge. He even had to flee the country, to flee to Belgium. Even his own vice president, Jorge Glass, was in a way criticizing his policies, and he was in a very good position to try to put a stop to this insanity of the new administration, because he was the vice president. So he was set up with corruption charges. He's been sentenced to 6 years, and now possibly, due to the monstrous injustice of what was happening to him, it would appear that now the former vice president Jorge Glass is starting the hunger strike, and I don't know if there is any new information, but as of 2 days ago, basically Jorge Glass, his former vice president, has been on hunger strike for 28 days refusing food and 7 days refusing water. So basically, he's dying. Basically, he's been was taken to hospital for a few days, and then Lenin Moreno ordered him to be sent back to prison. So basically, he's former vice president. So you have to show, and then all the the victims of Lenin Moreno are quite numerous. So it includes a number of former politicians, members of his own government, his own vice president, the Ecuadorian people, which now they're facing a very draconian regime of austerity. So increasing number of people, millions of people being pushed into poverty. So I want to conclude with this footnote that when people what they're doing to Julian Assange is pretty horrible. After 8 days of virtual incarceration, after 8 years of virtual incarceration, after 6 years in the embassy, after 7 months of total isolation, and now coming up with all this protocol full of bizarre and derogatory rules and oppressive. So it's quite horrific, but is to look at things in context. You know, Julian Assange is not the only victim of the Lenin Moreno of the current Ecuadorian government. And Julian Assange is not the only victim of the Western deep state, which all the people dying in Yemen, of people dying of cholera, all after filling Syria for a year with their terrorists. Now they're trying to Syria try to rebuild their country. They're imposing very draconian economic sanctions on Syria. Like it's not been enough for them to send 100,000 of their terrorists to Syria for many years. Now they're imposing. So try to prevent Syria from rebuilding from. So I mean, the victim, like maybe I should conclude with what a couple of years ago there was this. Radio marathon, targeting radio marathon on Peter Santilli radio show, and at some point, people were coming up with all different stories. A Santilli conclusion is, unless you're a member of this inbred, perverted, terror financial banking cartel, everyone else is either a target or a potential target. And with this reflection I'm going to end for today. I hope I at least provide some useful information for someone, and that's all for today. And although I need to end this broadcast,